We are back here on Boilers in the Stands. Matt Painter, head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers, is joining the show here today. Join us in the chat. We're excited to talk some Purdue basketball right now. And we are back here on Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Kraig Bowers Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Kraig Bowers and Joe Jackson. Excited for a 2025-2026 season of Purdue men's basketball. Preseason #1 team in the country. All the expectations, all the hype. Certainly warranted. Yesterday we broke down the open scrimmage for Fan Day that happened over the weekend. If you haven't had a chance, go ahead and check that out. Matt Painter will be joining us here in just a few minutes. We're excited to talk to him about everything Purdue basketball. He always gives great insight, and we appreciate him joining us before the season every year here for the last 3 years. And he's very gracious with his time, and we're very grateful for it. So what's up, guys? We're back. Long time no see. Last night did about an hour and a half, and now we're back in it. It is officially basketball season.
Yeah, excited to get Matt Painter on the show. Feels like I just left you guys not too long ago, but a lot's happened there in my family since then. My daughter competed for Purdue livestock judging team in a national contest yesterday and managed to finish top 5 in sheep and goats at the American Royal contest. So congrats, Mallory and the team. Yeah.
I watched Game 7 of the ALCS. That's what I did.
Yeah, there was 2 Monday Night Football games. ALCS was on as well, so it was a good night of sports. It was also Victory Monday for my Chicago Bears, so we are going to enjoy those while we have them here 4-2 on the year. And I'm at the CHGO Sports Studios here getting ready to do some Bears show here later in the afternoon, but excited to talk some Purdue men's basketball. And Blake Widmer here in the chat says, can we just get Brags in the Stand shows every day until the season starts? Bits is the best. We appreciate you, Blake, as always. Yeah, we were just discussing before the show started about, our logistics. Kraig and I will be at Rupp Arena Friday night for the game. Both of us have to get on the road, though, so it sounds like more than likely we're going to have a recap show of the Purdue-Kentucky game over the weekend. That won't typically be the standard. Most of the time we try to go live as soon as the game is over. But obviously traveling to Kentucky logistically, I think we're going to switch some things up for that because I have to get back to Indiana as soon as the game is over. So it's going to be a long 5-hour drive for me. So appreciate everyone's patience for that. But, yeah, you're going to get 3 shows here this week. This is show number 2. And Matt Painter, guys, he has built something here over the past two decades, 2+ decades here in West Lafayette. And we have, since we've been doing this show here, it has been the golden era of Purdue men's basketball. And it doesn't really feel like there's any end in sight, Joe. You're always kind of breaking down how the recruiting classes are going to go year to year. You always have that chart to kind of keep us up to speed with that. It doesn't, even with Braden, Trey Kaufmann-Renn, and Fletcher Loyer being in their senior year, everyone, all the rival fans are always like, well, wait till X player is gone and you guys are done. That never seems to happen under Matt Painter.
Yeah, he does such a good job recruiting him and the staff of identifying the players that they want specifically. I already have 2 commits for next season in Luke Ertl and Jacob Weber. And then you're going to be presumably returning a lot. Obviously, retention has been one of the key things for Purdue in this transfer portal era that features transfers going everywhere. Purdue has been, one of the few teams that's really been able to just kind of recoup a lot of players from previous seasons. I have the stats here. In the Big Ten, they're the only team returning over 50% of minutes from last season, and they are at 70% of their minutes is what they're returning.
And 80% of scoring, basically.
Yeah, 80% of points, 64% of rebounds, 90% of assists, 73% of steals, 83% of 2-point field goal made, 75% of 3-point field goal made, 80% of free throws made. There's a lot of production returning, and it's good production, right? Like, it's not just guys returning that you're like, I'm kind of iffy if they do or not. Obviously, you return Braden Fletch, TKR, a lot of the supporting cast. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, it definitely is. You hear from the players, they're asked about the national championship. A couple years ago when it was Zach Edey's senior year, they were asked a lot about the Final Four because that was the hurdle they had to get over. And now it's the final destination of winning a national championship. And lo and behold, the Final Four and national championship reside in Indianapolis here this year. And so there's a lot of symmetry, I think, with what could potentially be a very special season for Purdue. But when you break down those numbers and the 80% scoring and everything, just talking with friends and fans and family about this, and Kraig, you can push back. You're always kind of the good, give us the 30,000-foot view overhead guy on this show. I talk to friends about this, and I feel very strongly on this take. I feel like this team is better than Zach Edey's senior year team. And no player on this team is better than Zach Edey, who is a generational college player of all time, 2-time National Player of the Year. But the rest of the collection is either older, more experienced, or the incoming guys that are either freshman or sophomore have another level of talent that I just feel like this team is actually better than that year's team, which is crazy to say when you consider how good that team was.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Like, I don't think anybody's going to push back on that because you have 3 guys who were starters on that team who all have 2 more years under their belt. TKR obviously has taken the most massive leap of any of those, going from 6 points a game to 20 points a game. I expect to see his game elevated even more, maybe not from a scoring standpoint, but I think what he's going to be able to do from a passing standpoint with the other 2 bigs that he's playing with now. And just as that has progressed, the more comfortable he's got doing that out of the short roll. And then, quite frankly, just the other 2 spots that you have, you compare CJ and Jakari to Lance. I think they fill a similar role and can do it at an equally high level. And then at that other spot, I think the combo of TKR and Clough, where TKR is now, is probably a better combo. Zach was so dang good, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's 5 deep in terms of weapons out there. And just as importantly, I think the bench is so much deeper than that team was specifically. So I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that this is their best chance to win a national championship that Purdue's ever had.
Joe, is any pushback on that take?
No, no real pushback for me there.
I mean, they have to earn it ultimately. Yeah. They still have to prove it on paper, though. Heading into the year, when 2 years ago, when we were looking at Edey's senior year, it was Final Four or bust. And I was telling my friends, they're going to get to the Final Four. I felt very strongly. Now, I needed Joe to talk me off the ledge a few times as we went through the tournament. I think every game I needed his seal of approval that we were going to win that game, and that always made me feel a little better. But now it's elevated where, as much as I felt and called that they were going to get to a Final Four, where a lot of Purdue fans, understandably so, had their doubts, I definitely feel strongly, and I'm a very superstitious guy, but for whatever reason, this team gives me the confidence to not be afraid to talk about that national championship aspiration. And as a Cubs fan, you felt that in 2016 with when the Cubs finally got over the mountaintop. Their fan base wasn't afraid to talk about a World Series, even having gone through all the trials and tribulations and moments of sadness that we did. So, they've been knocking on the door every year, and it feels like this is a very good chance that they're going to kick that door down. So, looks like Matt Painter has joined us here in the studio. He is behind the scenes, so we will bring him into the discussion now. As always, joining here is head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers, Matt Painter. Appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you for joining us once again.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we know you're really busy, so we'll get right to it. And essentially, I'm just going to start off and give my question and then let these guys run the rest of the way. Joe and Kraig do an amazing job here covering this team, and I want to give them all the runway they can to to give you good basketball questions, because I'm always just going to give you the vibes and the meatball question. That's my job here on the show, and so that's essentially where I want to start is, like Joe breaks down the analytics, Kraig's going to give that overview of the team, but for me, I am a vibes guy, and being in the stands for that Houston game last year, it felt like a national championship type atmosphere. It felt like the game itself was the level of what fans could expect from a national championship game. How important was that moment for this current team, to learn to be in a moment like that without Zach Edey and try to compete at the highest level, some of the younger players getting that experience? And then to me, the storyline of it all that I find kind of sweet, being in the same stadium where you guys, ultimately are looking at this final destination of this year, a Final Four and a national championship in Indianapolis. Is there something there that you tap into with what you're telling your team from where you guys were to end last year to where you're trying to go to end this year to try to get to a national championship?
Yeah, it's a process. Like you don't start the new year where you finished it. You start over, and you have to relearn some things. Like I think that's the main thing. Like the devil's in the details. So you have to be detailed both offensively and defensively, but you also got to compete at a very, very high level. So sure, we have, big goals, and last year I thought we made some strides and we were better. And, we got into a really close game with a great team, and some things didn't go our way. And that's part of being in a close game. And like, when you look back on it, like it's tough, it's frustrating, but we've also learned from our previous losses in the NCAA tournament and tried to make our program better because of it. And that's what you do. They're an elite defensive team, and they're great at double teams, and they're great at trapping ball screens and trapping there. And we wanted to keep the ball in Braden's hands on any ball screen double teams to let him make those decisions. And we wanted to get Trey Kaufmann doubled and let him make decisions. But we didn't want anybody else to get doubled because Houston is that elite in their double teams. But we thought we could expose some things if we could have made some more shots. We generated good shots. Braden generated good shots. PJ made great calls. We executed. Fletch made some shots and really got us going in that game. So like we were right there. We were a play away from competing to go back to another Final Four, but we didn't. And so, like, you pick up the pieces, you add some pieces, I should say. And I think we've done that, and we've improved our roster, and now we just got to keep improving as a team going forward.
Yeah, well, when you talk about double teams, just based off of the one practice I've gotten to see of this team, it's going to be tough to double team this squad a little more. Seems like you got a lot of options on your hands. I'll let Kraig and Joe take it the rest of the way. Appreciate you, as always, joining us here. I'll be in the back here doing my thing.
No problem.
Yeah, so appreciate you coming on, Coach. I think as Braden, Fletch, TKR head into their senior season, they've essentially been in the national spotlight really since PK 85, the PK 85 tournament, their freshman
Somebody's
season.
volume's not on.
Is it? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Coach? No? Can he hear you?
Can you hear Kraig?
I can hear you right now.
But you can't hear Kraig or Joe?
Nope. I don't know who just talked.
Oh.
Well, how about you guys hop out and then hop back in and see if that solves the issue? Apologize about that, Coach. Now you are stuck with me here as Kraig and Joe try to get their stuff here situated.
Can you hear me now, Coach?
I can.
Okay, perfect. I think Joe's coming right back in just a second and see as well. Go ahead and talk, Joe.
Can you hear me now?
I can. No? Yes.
Okay,
we're good.
Cool. All right. So as Braden, Fletch, TKR, they head into their senior season, they've essentially been in the national spotlight since basically the PK 85 tournament that you guys won, and then you shortly after catapulted #1 in the country. as they've now been one of the most scrutinized trios for the past 3 years and project to once again be kind of in that spot where everything they do is going to be highly scrutinized, is there any concern of just like the emotional wear and tear that can have on them as they head into their final season and they've been through it all, they've been through the grind, and they just kind of want to get through it? And if there is any concern, is there anything, I guess, that you as a staff or just as a team can do to try to help mitigate some of that?
No, not really. I think, you worry about each individual guy, as the season goes on, because all three of them are different physically and just kind of what they have to go through there. But you do that with all your players, but you definitely do that from a physical standpoint with the guys that play the most, that have the most usage. And, but like fast twitch muscle guys are going to recover a lot quicker than guys that don't have fast twitch muscles, right? And so like how they recover, I think we all used to look at that in terms of everybody was the same. You'd speak in theory or you'd speak, from a standpoint of a team. Our team, we've done a good job recovering. We haven't done a good job recovering. When in reality, if you're a sleek athlete at 200 pounds versus a 300-pound 7-footer, like it's a big difference there. And but no, I think you are going to have times in the season that's challenging, whether it's a tough loss or bad calls or injuries or like whatever. Like, there's always obstacles. No matter what they do, there's obstacles. You play in the G League, you play overseas, you play in the NBA, you play high level college, there's obstacles. Like, and that's what great ones do. Great ones, take on those challenges. And they use those obstacles even when they fail, as motivation to be better. And, I think that's a big piece for those guys, is that they've been through a lot of different things. Is getting in to those moments, is make sure you have fun with those moments. Like that's going to be like make your hard work fun. And that's, I think that's the key more than anything. Like no matter how you feel, you can still do your job. I think a lot of times people take feelings and they take emotions when in reality, you can still do your job. Sure, you feel that way, and that's frustrating, but do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it and do it at a high level.
Yeah. Coach, thanks again for carving out some time with us. We're going to try to, it feels like you had an interview just about every day in the last couple of weeks. So trying to kind of shoot at some questions here that we haven't necessarily heard you asked over and over again and that you haven't had to answer multiple times. Much has been talked about in terms of what Oscar Clough can bring to this team from a rebounding standpoint. But I was really impressed at the scrimmage just in terms of what he can do in ball screen defense and how much ground he can cover. Right. Can you talk a little bit about what he brings there and if that can change anything that maybe you guys do defensively at all?
Yeah, it does change some things because we'll have a mix of what we do with guys that are versatile, with guys that aren't as versatile. What a lot of times people don't understand is like when you hedge high, it's not as much of hedging high. It's the recovery for somebody that big to go from 25 to 30 feet and sprint back to the rim while somebody's holding for them. So you want to be able to give, each one of those guys something that's going to help your team, but also fits their physical play. And, he's good at swiping and ball screens. He's good at getting out there. He's good at recovering. He's going to be able to do, really more versatile things for somebody his size. Kind of is the best way I think to put that. Daniel has length. Daniel doesn't recover as well, but Daniel causes some more problems with his length. So keeping Daniel more on a drop is going to be more beneficial to us. It doesn't mean Oscar won't be in a drop at times, especially if he's late in ball screen D. But we're going to have him and TK out there. I think you'll see JB and Liam when they're in the game, doing more switching, even though we'll try to knock some things out. And so we went back and forth with it. So like we're a no middle, no paint team, but we play in a drop a lot because of our size. And you're really, people that are in a drop, they're really looking to get those intermediate shots. They're looking to get the runners, the floaters, the pull-ups. Those are from an analytical approach, those are what you want defensively. But if you're a no paint team, a drop allows the ball to get in the paint, right? And so it's a contradiction in itself. So you're doing what's best for your personnel, but yet from a team theory, like we stat a lot of offensively when we get the ball in the paint, good things happen. Defensively, when we keep the ball out of the paint, good things happen. But yet we're scheming here and we're allowing the ball in the paint. So we felt like we had to do some things last year in our post double and in our ball screen that protected Trey to keep him in the game. And in hindsight, I feel like that was the right thing to do. But you still saw the warts, right? You still saw some of those things. But no matter what we do, we were just in a tough spot. And we were keeping him in the game. It wasn't like we were throwing the game defensively, but we were just and we weren't a good rebounding team either. So that was a big piece of our defensive numbers being lower, was that we had a tough time defensive rebounding. So that's what we're really gunning towards, and that's why we're gunning towards getting some, and being more aggressive with our hedges at time. It doesn't mean we're always going to do it. We'll be scout specific. So when we go into games, we'll look at some things and say, well, maybe it's better if Oscar's more in a drop here and Daniel stays in his drop and TK switches everything or whatever. We'll look at everything. You want to do what you think is going to work against the other team and also what is best for your team. You hope the answer is one in itself, but sometimes it's not. And that's what sometimes mixing it up helps. Sometimes just sticking to what's best for your guys. Then sometimes it's best what keeps us out of foul trouble too. I'm a big proponent in that. Let's get in that bonus and let's wear them out, but let's stay out of that bonus and not let them shoot free throws. Just win the free throw contest. So.
Yeah, and kind of piggyback off of that, you always say you can be in help, you can't live in help.
Yes.
And it was just a couple plays at the scrimmage where Clough's in that high hedge and TKR gets hit on the short roll, and it was a pretty easy bucket. And I guess I know it's hard to say definitively without specifically seeing the plays, but kind of in that scenario where say the screener slips and Clough's out in that high hedge, is it just on Clough to get back as quick as possible, or is that more on somebody, one of the low jam?
Yeah, you're talking in theory, but you're talking about a particular play too at the same time. So it's all right though. It's good. That's what makes it interesting. So I don't know the play you're talking about, but I'll explain it. I'll explain some things around it. So what happens with TK is you're trying to create, and anytime you deal with those short roll pocket passes, you got to create the pocket. Okay. If Clough allowed the pocket to create it and he's dealing with Braden and Trey, then it's over, right? It's over. You're just, I always tell those guys when certain absolutes happen and they say, well, what do we do now? I just said, well, I'll text you some emoji prayers because that's the only thing that's going to help you. But when you're dealing with someone that can pass that way and then somebody that can make a 12-foot floater at 70%, you're stuck. You're stuck. So what I would say to it is, don't let the pocket get created. Steer your man, get to your man, be physical with your man without fouling. So you're not getting, or you're diminishing that pocket. It might still be there. It's just going to be a tougher pass. So for us defensively, when we have to work on things and we go against TK and Braden in their two-man game, that's beautiful because it's that's probably the best two-man game in the country. But it's still, if we can stop them, which we don't do a lot, but that's what we have to work towards, right? That's what we work towards. We're tough. When we double TK in the post, we're working on our stuff. I think that is very important. I got a new phone and something just popped up on here, so I apologize. And I don't have the skills to know what the hell it is. I've never seen it before in my life. Let me see if I can get that. And I have bad eyes, so that's not a good one too. So I fixed it. But that's really important. to like be able to be into your man and steer your man and get it to him. You can call it steering, call it nudging, but you're getting it physically in there to your man, and you're not allowing that space. When TK gets to your body and he sprints up, sets it, releases early, opens up his leg. Now, if you're dealing with size, that's why when TK plays against fives, he gets that a lot, because he's so much quicker than those big fives. Now he's going to face a quicker guy. So he's got to be, fundamentally sound there. He's got to be able to get to it. He's got to be able to really sprint into it. And then you got to read it. Do you set it? Do you open? Do you get, do you slip out of it like you were talking about? So that's really kind of the gist of that for him. Once he allows us to have that pocket, he's up against it with Braden right there. And so like, that's what we really try to work on. Stay into the ball with Braden, make it hard on him, get to him. But don't let TK get in those roles right there. But he gets in them. Like he gets to it. So
we've got some more team specific questions, but I did want to fit this one in about you. In the CBS Candid Coaches poll, you were voted both the best X's and O's coach in the country and the coach that other coaches would most like to send their son to play for. That coming from your peers, does that mean something different to you when you hear that about yourself from your peers? And also kind of what does it say about the Purdue program in general and where it's come to?
Well, the part about who they would have their kid play for means something. Like that's cool, because it makes them honor that we've ran our program the right way. Education's important. We're just straight. Our program's straightforward. So like that's always. But there's also a part to that to where, like, there shouldn't be a reward for doing what you're supposed to do. Right? That's what you're supposed to do. And so just because others don't, it doesn't mean like you should get an award for it. It's just kind of the way I look at it. But the other part is a little misleading, because I don't run our offense. Right? And so I think what I would tell people who are voting, like the thing that we have is we're very organized in how we go about things and what we do in our practices, what we do in our workouts. They work out with our GAs, and they do a lot of functional things. And sometimes it's on them what they do. Sometimes we talk to our GAs just about, some things that they need to make sure. And most of it is skill work. But PJ Thompson runs our offense. Sasha Stefanovic does our out of bounds, side out of bounds, and specials. I discuss things with them, but PJ's really got it at a high level. So I told PJ when the article came out, I said, congratulations on being the best X and O coach. And then he was like, no, coach, that's you. He was just trying to kiss my ass so he can get more camp money. But more than anything, that was like, we collaborate a lot. And like, we talk to our players a lot. Like we talk, because they have a feel out there on some things. Like it's not like it's absolutes all the time. So there's always going to be a downside to some things. So like sometimes when you get people that get upset about stuff, there's another team out there. There's another coach out there. It's very competitive. And so sometimes you'll get like even basketball people like, I don't like this and like that. They're like, well, that's what the other team took away. And now we went to some other things that were different. And maybe one guy didn't get as much usage as this other guy, or didn't get looks, or like whatever. Like we just had something and we stuck with it. And that's that. So we just try to stay organized. We try to troubleshoot and try to figure out what's coming our way and be prepared for all those things. But it helps when you have older, experienced, quality players.
Yeah. So Braden, he is going to be one of the favorites for National Player of the Year, if not the favorite. At this point, he's probably come as close as you can to kind of mastering the point guard spot at least at college basketball level. Is there anything you're looking for him to improve on in terms of, whether it be efficiency or even just like just anything of the sort where you're like, oh no, I kind of want him to be able to tap into that a little bit more. And then also just a quick side note question is like, is there any pass that he can make at this point where like it would surprise you, or at this point it's just like, oh yeah, that's normal for Braden?
Yeah. I think you're just relearning things, like don't act like in 3 years, like everybody has adversity. He's had adversity. I think he's done a good job of handling it. But you're always going to have adversity. And that's what I think is frustrating as a competitor, is that if you don't like understand that, then you're going to have trouble with some of the same things that you had trouble with before. Now, he hasn't had a lot of trouble, obviously, with the success that he's had, but he still has them. I don't care who you are as a point guard, ultimate pressure still bothers you. Like, you're never, ever 100% and just say, like, you know what? People's pressure doesn't bother you. Like, yeah, pressure bothers you. Switching defenses bother you. People shooting passing lanes bother you. How they handle and they switch things up and the discipline of what they do, it's going to bother you. Now, how quick can you adjust to it? The thing that he does and does a great job of is that in film work, when he knows what's coming, and like that piece of when people switch things up on him, they're normally not very good at what they're switching to. And so they're like, oh, this is what we do. This is what we work on. He's great against this. We're going to switch this up. And it's not what they're switching to is not the right move. They're just not that good at it. They were better at something that he's really good at. So like that piece is something that he's always going to have that. As a point guard, you never get away from that. They're going to throw different looks at you. Different schemes, different defenses. They're going to pressure you. They're going to run at you. They're going to trap you. They're going to take the ball out of your hands. So it's just process-based. Like he knows what to go to. He knows how to handle it. Sometimes he wants to make that pass, to that guy. And if people let him do that, then that's where you see his high assist numbers. And then sometimes he won't have a high assist number because people will get the ball out of his hands, and then he gets a lot of hockey assists then. And so like then you'd be like, well, Braden didn't get a lot of assists. He got like 5 or 6, but he probably got like 7 or 8 hockey assists. It led to our baskets. So that's all that matters, that Purdue scores and that we're an efficient group when it comes to the offensive decision making, especially from him. But no, he's obviously great. And he takes coaching, and you can kind of go through everything, but you still got to relearn some things. What was your other question? I apologize.
No, you're good. It was just a little one-off question of like, is there any pass like in practice or anything that he makes where it like even surprises you at this point that it's like, I didn't think that pass should be possible?
Yeah, well, it's got to be functional. So like when you see him go behind his back or between his legs, off of those ball screens, I've never seen him turn it over doing that. I know I just stepped on a landmine right there by saying that, but I've seen the ball get kicked, but I've never seen him turn over in practice or a game, the behind the legs bounce pass or behind the back bounce pass. He does it 2 different ways. So I think here you're seeing this from our scrimmage the other day, and this is behind the back. Like he doesn't do that one as much as he does the one where he's really going to the corner on an outside ball screen and he goes between his legs and makes that. He used to do that to Zach and make that pass. And, but they kind of knew it was coming. And sometimes you don't know it's coming. You just got to be ready for it. And that's what bigs, man. You have to be ready for him. Because great point guards, if you throw it and like you're not quite ready, like they normally are the ones that get that turnover. And now they won't come back to you. they'll shut you out. So when he throws the ball to you, like catch the basketball. Like even if it's not perfect, catch the basketball because you want him to come back to you.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about a player that I haven't really heard many people ask you about. Now, I've heard you and the players both bring him up very quickly when asked about the newcomers, even if his name isn't mentioned. But you were talking about consistent pressure and how that can bother even the greatest point guard. And in the scrimmage the other day, I thought West really jumped out in terms of the amount of physicality that he plays with on the defensive end, really getting into Braden, forcing a couple of a turnover and a 10-second call kind of in pretty quick sequence there. Can you just talk a little about with his physicality and his length, what he potentially brings to this team from a defensive standpoint?
Yeah, very good on-ball defender. Plays hard, stays with it. So like what you saw in that scrimmage is what he does every day. And he's very physical. He's very aggressive and just does a great job of hawking the basketball. And once he kind of learns everything when people start to have different systems, I think that's the thing that jumps out when you start to play games is, we just keep going against each other, right? And sure, we run a sophisticated system to where we run a lot of stuff and you guard a lot of different actions, but you still aren't covering everything. You just aren't. And so once he can kind of get that experience, I think that's really going to help him. But no, he's a very good on-ball defender.
There's a question from the chat, and I kind of have had a similar question this offseason. Jason Wright just kind of brings up how First was able to defend on the perimeter. And when you think of he was the one that was tasked with the Ace Baileys and the Danny Wolves and things like that. I know TKR has experience playing the 4 alongside Edey 2 years ago. I guess is where's the comfort level at with presumably TKR having to guard more of those matchups, or would that be somebody like Clough?
You'd have to get particular with me. Like you would have to say actual names to me on other people's teams to make me get that. Because in theory, I would say, yeah, he guards them. But there could be some examples, and you just triggered some things with some names there. But yeah, like Caleb, Cam Heidi, like those guys would take on those guys. And they were good switchers too. Like you could switch with them. They can move their feet. They can keep the ball in front of them. And that's going to be it's going to be a little bit different because now it's not, protecting him as much. We're not protecting him, to be frank with you. He's got to guard those guys. You're just in a totally different position when you guard those versatile 4s, especially the guys that can drive the ball. The guys that can stretch you out to 25 feet and make deep threes. Like each guy's going to be a little bit different. And, that's something that he's going to, concentrate. He's going to have to concentrate on and do a good job for us. Like we really need, our returning guys. You can't be a good defensive team if the people that play the most aren't good defensive players. I know that's a revelation for you guys there. But just think about that. And so Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, TK, the guys that are going to play as much, you have to be individually a good.
Well,
I don't believe we can go to a Final Four and win a national championship being the 53rd best defense in the country. I do not wholeheartedly believe that. I think we can make a run at it. I think, in the right, perfect scenario, we could, but we got to be better defensively across the board. That's everybody. And so, some of those matchups that we have, we got you just can't hold serve. You got to win them. You got to win those matchups. And so that's going to be the challenge. And all those guys have aspirations of being NBA players, all of them. Make those guys that come in and scout you to write down there, this guy is a two-way player. He can defend in our league, and here's who he can defend. And if you can do that, because we have some really good offensive players, if you can make them write that on the board, you're going to put yourself in a great position, but you're also going to put, before you get there, you're also going to put Purdue in a great position.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back in here now and appreciate your time as always, Coach. We know how busy you are, and we always try to push it a little bit with you because we always enjoy the insights, and Joe and Kraig do an incredible job covering this team. So hopefully we gave you some good questions here today. I know you're always –
If somebody's talking, I can't hear you.
Oh boy.
That was Braggs right there that was trying to talk. Probably for the first time in his life, somebody couldn't hear him. But yeah, we were just kind of saying, like, we appreciate you coming on. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I think, that's kind of what Braggs is getting at. Kraig, I don't know if you have anything else you kind of want to add.
No, just thanks again for carving out some time. I know our fans
no problem.
really love when you come on and join us, and we always enjoy talking to you as well. And good luck this season.
Cool.
And we will be there. Well, Greg and I will be there at Rupp Arena on Friday.
Cool. See you there. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, Coach.
See you. Bye-bye.
That was Matt Painter. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. That little audio.
Yeah, that was
glitch.
weird.
Yeah.
Who knows? Regardless, we worked through it, so appreciate everyone, bearing through that, but great job by you guys. It's never easy when we're live and things like that happen to kind of roll with the punches. And we were able to get through that seamlessly. So shout out to Matt as well for coming on the show as always. I mean, he is, to me, the best coach in the country. So it's an honor and a privilege to be able to talk basketball with him. And, it's going to be a fun season. It really will be. And so we're looking forward to starting this up here on Friday for Rupp Arena. And great job for both of you. As always, great questions to Coach Painter. I think he appreciates trying to look at this team from a different lens than just the overarching. I mean, certainly he's answered a lot about Omer Meyer and different players on this team. And, it kind of does get redundant. I know maybe you didn't hear it on this program, but, there's a lot of different interviews, as Kraig mentioned, that he's done over the last 2 weeks where you can hear kind of expanded views about some of the different individual players. But, so it's going to be another fun year. I have high expectations for this team, and I don't think the team is running from those expectations. I think a lot like Edey's senior year, the goal, the first goal, I mean, I know Painter always has win the Big Ten. They don't really care as much about the Big Ten tournament, but win the Big Ten and then, do well in March Madness. But I do think the biggest goal of the regular season is to do what you can to get a 1 seed, and as Painter said, you can't skip steps. As a team, they can't be looking ahead to that. But at the same time, what they do in non-conference, what they do in November will dictate and have a big impact on whether or not they have an opportunity to get a 1 seed. And 1 seed is important this year because, at least from Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Kraig too, if they do get a 1 seed, that means the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 would likely be in Chicago. And so you're talking about a potential of home court advantage in a lot of ways, from Sweet 16 on, with the Final Four being in Indianapolis, and the national championship as well. So, it was a big deal for Purdue to get a 1 seed Edey's senior year, and that definitely helped their path to the Final Four. Then they're going to need another number 1 seed here this year.
Yeah, and in theory, even the first round game should be easily within driving distance. I forget what I looked at, but it was either like St. Louis or Detroit potentially would be
St. Louis.
First and second round game. So, I mean, if they happen to get the number 1 overall seed, their path in terms of having Purdue fandom there would be incredible. I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors for this particular episode, Remington Auto Wash. Hey, folks. Quick shout out to our new sponsor that's making it easier and shinier than ever to keep your ride looking fresh. Introducing Remington Auto Wash, your locally owned and family operated car wash located 30 minutes north of Purdue University in Remington, Indiana. Whether you're in a rush or love doing it yourself, they've got you covered. Touchless automatic bay, perfect for a fast, scratch-free clean with no brushes, no worries. Self-serve bays for the hands-on car lovers who want to wash, rinse, and shine their way. High-powered vacuums, perfect for getting your interior looking as good as the outside. Clean water, top-quality soaps, and equipment that is run by real people right here in the community. Swing by Remington Auto Wash and support a local business that cares about your car just as much as you do. Open 24 hours a day at the corner of U.S. Highway 24 and 231 in Remington, Indiana. That's Remington Auto Wash, where clean cars and local pride go hand in hand. And again, those are both Purdue alumni and listeners to the show. And you will see them at games often, sitting down close to the court as well. So thankful for their sponsorship.
Yeah, we appreciate them sincerely. So welcome to the program, Remington Auto Wash, and welcome to all of you. If you're a first-time listener or viewer to this show, we appreciate you tuning in here. Hope you enjoyed the interview. If you didn't have a chance, yesterday we did a breakdown of the scrimmage that we saw on Saturday. You saw some of those highlights during the interview with Coach Painter. There was more that we shared, throughout the show yesterday. And so you can have an opportunity to check those out. It was a competitive day. It was fun to watch these guys because it was, you can just see with the talent they have across the board, even their fifth option at times, is somebody that can be a real difference maker. And you see a little bit here on, splitting the double and dish to Trey Kaufmann-Renn that Fletcher Loyer and TKR are ready for the season to get rolling. But that's some of the content that you can be used to, when you're tuning into our program. We do live post-game shows as soon as the games are over. Friday is going to be a little bit of an adjustment being in Kentucky. Might have a recap over the weekend, but for regular season games, we go live as soon as the final whistle blows. And Joe and Kraig do preview shows before each game that you can stay tuned for. We do interviews with players and coaches and analysts and local beat guys and even fans at times. So we try to bring everybody into the fold here on Boilers in the Stands. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button on the show. Those are the easy ways of supporting what we do and help grow what we do. The more likes, the more comments, the more subscribers, the more you hit that notification button. Those are the things that are going to push the algorithm to open up our community to more fans. We've just been growing every year, and it's been a lot of fun meeting a lot of you in person and interacting with you here in the chats and on social media. So we sincerely appreciate your guys' support. Without you guys, we can't do what we do, and it's been a lot of fun doing it. So looking forward to standing on a national championship floor once again. 2 years ago, we were in Arizona, all three of us, but this year we won't have to take a flight. If they get all the way there, we'll be in our hometown. And to put it mildly, if they were to get to Indianapolis, I know Painter can't skip steps and the team can't, but I just think about that and dream about that scenario because Indianapolis will be unlike any time it's ever been. That city will be just amazing to be in. And so I really look forward to that coming to fruition.
Especially when you think about some of the other really high quality teams that could potentially be in Indy. I mean, could you, very rare chance this happens, but could you imagine a Louisville, Kentucky, Purdue Final Four, like with the national championship game in Indianapolis?
Yeah,
that would be insane.
It would be.
It would be. And so I guess that's where we can kind of end it. We're going to have a lot of shows here coming up. We certainly could go another hour breaking this team down, but we did, these guys did a really good job yesterday. We went an hour and a half, 40 minutes yesterday of talking about this team in more of a nuanced fashion. But, I'll go to both of you guys and I'll start with you, Joe. I think the one thing that kept Purdue from winning a national championship 2 years ago was that there was a UConn team in their way, a team that won back-to-back national championships. And what I keep telling my friends and family is Purdue is the UConn this year. I'm hard-pressed to identify if there is that UConn team that could potentially stand in their way. So from a national landscape, and for those that are just so hyper-focused in on Purdue and don't see the rest of the country for what it is, I'll start with you, Joe, and then Kraig, you can follow up. But who is out there that we need to kind of be looking at as those hurdles that Purdue would eventually have to overcome?
Houston's number one for sure. They'll be top 10 offense, number one defense. Like, we know, obviously Purdue played them last year. Kelvin Sampson runs an incredibly tough defense. Now you could argue, right, Brain picked them apart. And they were a bucket away from beating them last season. the same time, Houston maybe is just going to be better this year as well. So they're definitely one. Florida is another team, definitely, obviously repeating or looking to repeat as champs. They returned a good chunk. They bring in a lot of good players. They'll be one of the best teams. I think those two with Purdue to me feel like the top three. But there's a lot of teams: Kentucky, Duke, UConn. I would throw Michigan in the mix that like could kind of be in that Purdue type tier. So it's not going to be easy. It feels more to me like this year will be similar to last year, where it's like you just have a handful of really elite teams at the top, whereas maybe 2 years ago it was kind of UConn and then a giant gap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. Kraig, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember going into that season, UConn was not viewed as this like absolute behemoth powerhouse. They became that as the season progressed. I mean, they were ranked in the top 10 as a preseason, AP poll team going into that year, but nobody was looking at them like they are this generational talent of a team. The one thing that they had, though, that this team's really going to have to work to improve on is that UConn team was absolutely elite defensively, and have had multiple players in the NBA from that team that are elite defenders at the NBA level. So I think it's a little bit different scenario. I think if you just look at it from overall package, this Purdue team certainly is up there. I mean, I'm going to say the same teams that Joe does, though, if we go through this, like Houston, Florida, potentially UConn. I'm not quite as high on Michigan as Joe and some of the other ones, but nonetheless, I think there's multiple teams that will be in the mix on this one. If we came in 100% sure this Purdue team could be a top 15 defense, then I would feel really comfortable saying it was a Purdue and then a big gap like UConn a couple years ago.
And I think that that was one of the questions that I think if I had an opportunity to jump back in, but we understand, between my question length and then Painter's answer length, we were going to avoid that, those two, mountains colliding. But at the same time, as he was kind of going through some of the defensive talk, which I really appreciated you guys going deeper into that, because all that's ever talked about is offense. So I thought there was some really good insight there on how things can pan out. But ultimately, like we talked about yesterday, for this team to become a good defensive team, they have to figure out their rotations first. And, and different guys bring different things to the table individually. But until Matt Painter figures out his rotations on this team, it's going to be hard. They're going to be hard pressed to really find their groove defensively until they get to that point. So it'll be interesting to see what their potential is as a defensive unit. But as Painter said, you have Daniel Jacobson with the drop coverage and the length that he has. We've been used to that, not just with Edey, but with some different players before him that had that insane size, and that really creates, some problems for the opposing team. So I think Jacobson just naturally will be able to do that, and Oscar Clough and his motor and his rebounding ability and some of the different things he's able to do from a high hedge, like you guys pointed out, I think will give this team some versatility that we haven't seen defensively. And we kind of see what Braden and, CJ Cox, Sha'Carri Harris all bring from a perimeter defense standpoint. And even Fletcher Loyer can get pesky at times. So excited to see those things. So as we wrap things up, you guys talked about the national landscape. I don't know, maybe before the season, we'll get into maybe kind of the Big Ten landscape. Maybe we can do a show where we talk about the different teams in the Big Ten, or maybe you guys have already done that show and I just didn't know that because I'm covering the Bears every day of my life. And I'm very grateful for that, by the way. But
I mean, we didn't go through like a Big Ten, this is our ranking going into the season or anything like that. But we did a schedule preview show where we highlighted the Big Ten teams that we thought would be difficult matchups and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and here's the schedule right here. Excited to get to all of it. And it starts with Kentucky here coming up on Friday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. I believe that game will be played on SEC Network. We'll be, bringing some footage to you guys as well. If you follow us on Twitter at Boilers in Stands, go ahead and follow that. We'll try to bring you guys some visual content while Kraig and I are there. And, and then we'll have a recap show over the weekend. So excited to see that's 2 top 10 teams. Purdue number 1, I believe Kentucky's number 8 in the country. So we'll see how they look. I know their guard in a scrimmage hurt his shoulder, so I'm not really sure what the update was with him there. Joe, did you see that? Yeah, I saw one of their players. I'm not sure.
Jalen Lowe.
Yeah, he hurt his shoulder. The video didn't look great. So I'm not really sure what the update was.
He won't play. There's no way.
Right. So the video wasn't pretty for him. So hopefully everything's okay with him, but changes some things in terms of the challenge that they'll be presented there. But Kentucky still has plenty of good players that Purdue will have to match that intensity, and it'll be a fun test with nothing on the line at Rupp Arena. That's one of the main want to go to see Rupp Arena. B, get to see a two top 10 teams go up against each other where there isn't like this inherent stress going on, because win or lose, it's a wash, and we get to just enjoy the rest of the year. So it's the last game for the rest of the year until April 10th that we can just kind of have some fun and enjoy it without losing our minds here a little bit. So excited for that coverage, excited to do coverage all season long. So once again, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to Matt Painter for tuning in. We appreciate him, as always, giving his time to this program every year. And thank you to all you that tuned in as well. So, and obviously Kraig and Joe, great job as always. And we appreciate your hard work covering this team. So with that being said, I think that wraps things up. If you want more Purdue basketball talk, check out our show from yesterday, hour and 40 minutes, breaking down each player kind of one by one and everything we saw from the scrimmage on Saturday. Shout out one more time to Remington Auto Wash. Appreciate their support to the program, and welcome to the family. And we will see you over the weekend, and we'll see you on Friday at Rupp Arena. That's right. It is a Midwestern goodbye. That's what we do here on Boilers in the Stands. Enjoy your day. Signing out. Boiler up.